Well, today we have a guest who absolutely needs no introductions to the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. Today we have the architect of the Utah Mammoth, Mr. General Manager Bill Armstrong. Bill, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. Well, thanks for having me on. You guys do an incredible job in this podcast. So just thrilled to be on today to see if I can answer your questions about the Mammoth and where we're going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We just had Lee Stempniak on, and we've just kind of worked our way up to just slowly kind of pick all of your brains to learn everything we can about the team.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, you weren't handed this job by any means. You really grinded for it, from winning a Memorial Cup to paying your dues in the minors and working your way up each step of the way. You ended your playing days with Peter Laviolette as your head coach, who also was a former teammate of yours. And I heard you have a great story about his answering machine in your first coaching gig that helped launch your post-playing career. You want to tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, I was kind of sweating. I was getting to the point in my career where not a lot of teams were calling me back, and I was in the minors, and I was married, and you have 2 kids, and it's just I didn't have a contract, and it was late in the summer, and a reporter called me and said, "Hey, Peter Laviolette, your buddy got the job in Providence to be the head coach." So I left him a message on his answering machine because he didn't pick up, and I said, "I'm your new assistant coach. I'll see you in a couple of weeks." And he called me back, and he said, "Yeah, that'll work." So that's how I got my first coaching gig. So I ended up having to play for. I was the last player coach in the history of the American Hockey League where I played.
No way.
Coach. Yeah, the record was not very good with me in the lineup. I think we won like a record-setting amount of games that year, but it wasn't good with me in the lineup. And this fan wrote this nasty letter to Peter about having me in the lineup, and he read it in front of the room, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. So that was kind of the end of my playing career. Yes.
Sounds like Reg Dunlop.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking.
Player coach. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty much. I think that's why they stopped the role in the American League because of the movie for sure. But I loved getting into coaching. It was kind of a transitional period for me, and I really embraced it. I looked around the American League at the time and saw every assistant coach in the American League. They were a former NHL player, so I never took that job for granted. I grinded, 7 to 9 hours a day watching video, trying to learn and become better. And Peter was a natural at coaching, and obviously he's gone on to have an amazing career. But he was a big inspiration for me and helped me on my journey into hockey.
Yeah, and that transitions well into my next question. How did that moment kick off your path into scouting and management? Like, how did coaching lead to scouting lead to being an executive?
It was one of those things where I did coaching for a while. I think it was probably 6-7 years that I was into it. And then I made up my mind to kind of get into scouting. I had a friend that had jumped from coaching into scouting. And I really thought that's where I wanted to be, and so I pursued that path and ended up getting a gig because of Peter Laviolette. Actually, he talked to the general manager at the time for the St. Louis Blues, and they were able to create a position for me in where I was living at the time, and I got into scouting, and I was really addicted to learning scouting. For me, it was just like open this new world where, from being a player, and understanding the game that way to going into coaching and now trying to understand it from the scouting perspective, my eyes were changing. I went to, I think, like 225 games of scouting my first year. I think I was up like 400, in that area by the end of by my second year. So it was transforming my thought process. But because I was a coach and a player, I kind of had a higher thought process. It's like going to law school, and you're just, my thought process of understanding scouting took a little bit of time, and my eyes changed. But when they did, I had a firm belief that I could do that job and have an impact for an organization. And I went from part-time scout to full-time scout to crossover scout to head scout to assistant GM. So I worked my way up the hard way. A lot of airplane travel and a lot of nights away.
Well, you've spoken a lot about in order to build a championship team on the ice, you have to build a championship team off the ice first, and you've done that by surrounding yourself with people like John Ferguson, Coach Andre Tourigny, Alan Hepple, Daryl Plandowski. What goes into identifying those types of hockey minds?
That's a great question. You really want to be the job is so big as general manager that you're running it that you really depend on really good hockey people that surround you to give you advice, and you can't know everything from goaltending to European scouting to pro scouting to everything and developing. There's a lot of people that surround you, and my thought process when I was studying to be a GM was to get the best people around me. So I was even though I was scouting at the time, I was constantly in search of, hey, if I get that job, I'm going to bring this guy in, that guy, or I would witness, other teams doing a really good job in their structure. So when I arrived on scene, with the former ownership, I was prepared to hire in every department and make sure that we had the best. And that started with scouting and trying to not only get the best scouts but also grow your scouts once you have them on board, and create a process that's elite in every single department that surrounds me, is trying to make it the best department. And the one thing that I try to tell my head of the departments is that you have to drive the department. I don't have enough time in the day. You've got to own it and drive it and make it the best in the NHL.
And I gotta say, from a fan perspective, right, watching every NHL entry draft, you see at the table sitting in the back of the room, the guys picking later. You see Big Bill Armstrong up there with the Blues. You see Plandowski with the Lightning, and you see Alan Hepple with the Avs, and you come to see these top scouts every year, and it was so exciting to see all of them come into the organization. And then when Arizona goes up to pick, it's like this dream team of scouting minds on the stage, and it's like, as a fan, it was so reassuring to know that we were in such good hands as far as drafting is concerned at that point.
Yeah, it was a frightening experience coming in as a GM because we were limited in a lot of ways, but one thing I knew that we could do is draft. If we got the right people on board in our scouts and built the right staff, the NHL gives you 7 picks. So I knew if we could just stick to that and draft, we could build a great hockey team. And we kind of accelerated that through COVID and taking on bad contracts and accumulating a mass of picks and trying to swing as hard as we could for our players. And we've done some creative things in the organization when we kind of slipped into Belarus and drafted 2 Russians and Simashev and But, and it's paid dividends for us that we've been creative in finding it. And I think we were faced in a situation with Logan Cooley where there was a lot of other players below him that were supposed to be the number 1 guy overall, and we had so many guys in that draft room that had picked one, and the guidance from the Larry Plows and the Daryl Plandowskis and Ryan Janikowskis and Alan Heppels of the world. We were pretty steadfast on our guys and knew what we wanted. We weren't swayed by the media and the central scouting and all the other places that can have influence on you. And we stuck to our guns and our list. And that has to do with the amount of talented scouts and the experience we have in that department.
Bill, you mentioned Ryan Jankowski. Now he's taken the role with Seattle, but can you speak to his impact on the organization and as well how the organization is going to evolve with him no longer with it?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan did a great job for us. He came in at a time with him and Daryl and with a mass amount of picks. And, their first pick, I believe, was Gunther. Working together, they crushed it. They did a great job in that draft. If we could have just drafted Knives, it might have been the perfect draft of all time.
Yeah.
But they got Moser and Donor and Lilberg too. They did a great job in that one too. So, but he had a huge impact on this organization. He did a great job, and obviously he went on to go work in a higher job with Seattle. And as I said, I moved up quite a bit, and I believe in promoting your guys too and not holding them back. And he had a chance to go, and that's also shows our organization what a great job we've done with scouting, and he was a big part, and he deserves that.
For sure. I'm excited to see what he can do. And just to your point, building that healthy environment where you can build somebody up to a point where they can follow the same path that you did. It's just a culture that people are attracted to and are going to want to gravitate towards. So speaking of that, though, what does a healthy debate look like between you and your scouting guys in the war room? Are you guys all aligned, or is it like a full-on cage match? Is it pretty intense sometimes?
That's a great question. To be really a good scouting staff, you have to have trust, and that trust allows people to speak honestly in that room and not get berated for their honesty. Larry Plow, he just celebrated his 62nd training camp in the National Hockey League. So he's one of the advisors that sits in that room, and one of his big jobs is to make sure that as you say, you have the right for your opinion to be said in that room, and he just makes sure everybody does it politely and honestly and respectfully. But you do get your chance to say your piece, and that's a big thing in our organization is to be able to go up and say your opinion. And when you create that openness and honesty inside that room, you produce good results, because a lot of times, if there's no trust, everybody just says the same thing and everybody just agrees with everybody. And that's where you make big mistakes. And I've had some great guys work for me. Tony Feltrin was one in St. Louis, and he would get up and, he would say his opinion honestly, and he made a huge impact on that room. And I'm always a big believer of having that honesty in there. But there's healthy debates. Nowadays, there's analytics in there. There's video in there. There's a lot of different ways that you can win the debate, and usually get your player on top. And the harder you work, the better chance you have to do that. So those are great debates. And we've always tried to grow our scouts. We spend a lot of time in training camp teaching and trying to get them to be the best scouts going into their area every single season.
And speaking of growing and learning, Andre Tourigny, head coach Andre Tourigny, a lot of times the coaches that are hired to shepherd teams through a rebuild don't end up still with the team when they take the next step. And it looks to me like Andre Tourigny very well could. I'd love to just spend a little bit of time talking about Coach Bear, especially a story I've heard before, I think, about you seeing him in Rouyn-Noranda without him maybe knowing that you saw him there, where he was kind of like a general on the bench, but then you saw him after with some of his players playing a totally different role. Can you tell us a little bit about your first spotting of Bear? Yeah.
Rouyn was a hard place to win in the Quebec League because it was so far up north. And I went in there one night, did a couple players, and I saw this coach behind the bench, and they were in first place. And he was barking away. And I just thought to myself, oh, my God, this guy's like a general. He's so hard on his players. They must hate this guy. And there was one spot in it was a pizzeria kind of / bar there in downtown Rouyn on the main street. And everybody went in there, and all the team came in there, and I was in a booth. And next thing I know, he came in there, and I couldn't believe his interactions with the team and how much they liked him and respected him. But at the same time, he had that authority, to be coach. And I always admired his relationship with his players, at the same time getting the most out of them. And I was a firm believer when I hired him is that he could get through the rebuild because of having those relationships with his players. I felt like there was a firmness, there was a trust, but he didn't leave a scar on the player. And I think he's proven that. And I think the players play extremely hard for him. And you can see that every year we've taken giant steps in our point total and our ability to now push the envelope to get into the playoffs.
Right. I've always pictured that bar. That's like this really snowy, dank place, like the one from Indiana Jones. And now knowing it's a pizzeria, kind of changed my mind on this.
It's kind of a slash between that and a pizzeria, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, and to continue on with Bear, what is he doing now that is really reinforcing your belief in him as a guy to lead this team moving forward?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, we've got young players. You've got, JJ Paterka, and Cools and Gunther, they're 21, 22, 23 years old. So he's in the process of helping those guys grow and push the entire organization to get to that next level. And we're in that spot where, hey, listen, every day we come to the rink trying to get better, pushing that group in every way, shape, or form to get better. And he does a great job. I think that's what he's doing now. He's pushing them. He's getting them out of that comfort zone and pushing and saying, hey, listen, boys, let's go. It's time to go here. It's time to go. And listen, we're going to go through bumps in the road. We're not a perfect team. We're 60% built, where it should be to win in a Stanley Cup. You got to be about 80%. So we're getting there. We've made some huge strides by adding the Peterkas and the Simashevs of the world. We've made strides by putting people, but we're not perfect. We've got some unperfect spots, and he'll have some situations where he's got to really push the group over the hump, and that's going to come this year. It's going to be a fight. Our division is the toughest division in hockey. We're either going to get in or out by 1 point. It's going to be that close. It's going to be a punch in the face competition right to the end of the season, the last game. We probably win. We're probably in.
Yeah. And quickly on that, just want to give you a quick pat on the back. Bravo, by the way. This is the most exciting team. I mean, we've been following this team for many, many years back in Arizona and this team. And the sentiment's the same with former Coyotes fans and current Utah fans. This is the most exciting year of hockey that they anticipate watching. So just really quickly wanted to give you a pat on the back for that.
Yeah, thank you. And, it's exciting times. We're a little banged up in training camp, as a GM, you want to get everybody on the ice right now. You want to get everybody the reps going. We've seen small glimpses of Cooley, Gunther, and Peterka in practice, and they pulled us out of our seats. So we're excited about this. We want to get ready, but we've had a little bump in the road with a few injuries. I walked through the training room and my sarcastic GM smile this morning and said, guys, I played with a broken jaw in 2 places. I played 3 games on the weekend. Do you think we could get everyone back on the ice with some hip flexors and some small groin issues? Is that possible? So I don't think they appreciated my sarcasm, but hopefully I sent a message this morning. So heal up, boys. Heal up. We got to go.
Love it. And there's a couple of guys on the team that was probably lost on. That would be Dmitry Simashev and Daniil But, who maybe would not be tracking that so well. But man, those two have been so incredible in the preseason. Such a treat to watch. Prospect nerds like us have been watching their NHL games on YouTube for years. So we've seen the flashes from streaming KHL games because we're absolute sickos. But for most fans, this is their first experience with seeing what these guys can do. It's been hard to watch them, but I'm sure it's much harder to watch them in person, which is something that you and your scouting group managed to do ahead of the 23 draft, and you kind of shocked the hockey world by drafting these guys 6th and 12th overall. Everyone at the draft kind of assumed you hadn't seen them live, but it sounds like you got more access than people maybe realize. What can you tell us about the time you spent with them and how you pulled that off ahead of the draft?
Well, we went into Belarus at the time, and and they were playing a tournament in there, and we were the only, I believe, North American scouts that went into that tournament, and we slept in. Now, the day we came in was kind of scary because they were moving nuclear warheads down the main street of Minsk. So it was a little frightening, to be honest with you. But we went into the rink, and all the Russian scouts were like, "What are you guys doing here? How did you get in here?" So we ended up going in, and then we walked right into a place where their team was, and ended up having conversations with those guys for an hour each. And they both spoke. Dmitry Simashev spoke perfect English, which amazed us.
Wow.
And then Boot, his English is pretty good too. And we were able to kind of go into Nashville to draft those guys and meet their families, which is a big thing for us. And we really felt good about where we were with them. We had to convince the ownership. And that was about a 24-hour full day of meeting, convincing the ownership that we should take these 2 young kids from Russia. We were able to get that done, and we stood up and drafted them at 6 and 12. And normally when you announce, like, for example, Logan Cooley, there's this roar that overtakes the stadium, and you kind of feel good about that, and we went up there to announce Dmitry Simashev, and it just was like a complete another silence that went through the building. Nobody reacted. It was completely quiet. We're like, and he just walked out of the stands onto the stage. So we felt good about it. The rest of the world didn't, but we did. So, and we like those 2 players a lot, and they've been outstanding in camp for us. And they give us the ability to not only be good players, but they give us some size too.
And Bill, not only do we know that you had a chance to see them in Belarus, but we know part of your process is you like to turn over every stone, talk to players, teammates, family to learn everything you can about these players. Was there much of an opportunity to do that with Simashev and But, and did you get to spend much FaceTime with them before the draft?
We did. We got to know them pretty good. Our main scout over there, he had known those But and Simashev since they were 12 years old. So we had a really good feel for them and understanding of who they were. I think it's pretty impressive when you meet a kid from over there that speaks perfect English and his main goal is to play in the National Hockey League, and you meet his family. You get a really good feeling about who they are. And both the kids, Daniel But's dad was Anton But, who was drafted by the Devils, never played in the National Hockey League, never got a chance to go over. He was pretty driven to get his son over the National Hockey League, and has been instrumental in guiding him to be a National Hockey League player. So we had a good feeling in our gut that they were coming and they were going to be impact players for us.
Amazing.
So we've actually talked to quite a few of your draft picks, Cole Baudouin, Lavoie, Lamoureux, and all of them have one thing that we've noticed, and they just seem like really solid, good dudes. High motor, humble, great heads on their shoulders. How do you scout that?
I think there's a lot of experience that goes into that. There's a lot of mistakes I've made as a scout in drafting players. And each time you make a mistake drafting a player with bad character, you learn from that. And I try to teach the staff that. And because of our experience, not to say that it won't happen again, because, we're swinging for the fences a lot of time, but we do a lot of background check, and we have a certain way that we do it that enables us to be fairly accurate with how we do it. And there's about 100 years of scouting experience into that process on how to draft that way. And from Larry Plow to John Ferguson to myself to Daryl Plandowski and the rest of the staff, there's a lot of experience in that thought process of getting the right character through the door and in having that ability to push and that will to improve. It's a great quality that they must have.
Yeah. And as we mentioned many times before, you've done this the hard way: buses, interviews, family meetings, overseas rinks. What's a story from the road that sticks with you the most? Like funny, emotional, or just plain out there and weird?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. There's a lot of them. I think, you just have this, you're across the world, and you see these different things, and you're a long way from home at the time, and you're so enthused about getting into these rinks, and seeing the players play. And my first trip across, I went to see Tarasenko play, and he was in a tournament. I was with the Blues at the time, and I was frightened. I mean, I had this car pick me up in St. Pete's. I didn't know the driver, just total darkness. We went to this back alley. The door opened up. It was a hotel, and I was just so thankful that I think I probably gave the guy about $100,000. I didn't even know. I was just so thankful he got me to the right place. I was just here. I just pushed him the money, but and I was in like St. Pete's, Russia, and I went to this rink to see him play, and I just remember like being tired, almost being sick, scared to death about not knowing to go, and you see this moment where he just pulls you out of your seat, and you're like, oh my God. You look around, there's not very many people around, and you're like, whoa, like it's a great moment that you always live with, because then when you take that back and your boss asks you at the time, Jarmo Kekalainen, like, what do you think? I said, what do I think? I'll pick this guy at one, like he just, so there's a lot of travel. It takes a long time to get from Warwick, Rhode Island to St. Pete's, but you have to put in that time. Probably the best story that I always like is the Colton Parayko one, where we weren't sure who knew about him, and we were really secretive about when we went to see him. He played in Alberta Junior League, and we didn't see him near Calgary or any of those places, Edmonton. We went always to the farthest place north that nobody would go to scout, and he wasn't on Central's list. So it's a true story. I was on a flight coming out of Vancouver to Edmonton, and there were 6 head scouts on that flight. So, and there was a game with him playing in Edmonton that day in Tier 2, and I went to the game in the second period with my hat pulled down, jeans, just really, and I didn't even watch the game. I just went through the stands and found out who was there. And there was only 2 teams. There was Toronto and Minnesota, and they picked after us in the 3rd round. So I was like, I felt good about it, because if you're going to watch them and you knew them, you would have been at that game. So I felt really confident about that. And so our scout at the time, he fought and fought to get this guy up into the 2nd round, and I wouldn't budge on it because I knew we'd get him in the 3rd. So we ended up taking him in the 3rd, and he worked out pretty good. If I would have been a little bit better at my job, I think we would have taken him in the 2nd. but like that, you have those moments where you have a plan, you execute, and it's like you need a little bit of luck too. You really do need some luck. You got to get the list right. But we had a plan all year. We knew that kid from early in the fall before anybody else did. We had a tip on him. And we stuck to our guns and never saw him. We kind of hid when we did, and hey, he ended up on our plate. He's a hell of a player for St. Louis. So,
yes.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you, man. We took a little bit of your time today, and I apologize. I know you got a lot of work to do, and it's been an honor and a treat to share some time with you here. So. Speaking of luck, best of luck to you and the team moving forward. We can't wait to watch to see how this all folds out. And again, we sincerely appreciate you and are super fans of yours.
Yeah, listen, when you guys are near our facility, when you guys all get together, we'd love to have you in here and show it to you. It's unbelievable. We're going to rock the Delta Center. It's the loudest building. It's redone for us. It's going to be an incredible place to play. Our team's fast, hungry. Hey, we're going to have some bumps. We're not going to be perfect, but we're going to come out swinging every single game, trying to get into the playoffs. It's going to be a heck of a year. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Did it. Thanks, Bill.
Well, that was pretty much a dream come true for the Clean crew.
Yeah,
I was donning where are we going? Cult of GMBA t-shirt. I don't know if Bill Armstrong noticed it, but hopefully there's a little nod in there. But man, we got some cool stories out of that.
Yeah, is that the shirt that our buddy 3-Putt gave him, or did he give him the Gunther shirt?
I think
he's got that one.
Gave him I think he gave him the ping pong ball one.
Oh, that's right, he did.
Oh yes,
he did, yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I like that one. Yeah.
The lucky number 3. But yeah, that was
a Mount
that's
Rushmore
one of those
interview?
guys. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's just such an interesting GM. We were kind of talking about it after Bill left, but it's he's not the same as like every GM out there. It's kind of the equivalent of getting to interview like a Tortorella or a Maurice as a coach instead of like a Knobloch or somebody who's not quite without the booming personality that kind of those types have. So and of course Bill has stories for days, and we got to put all of our brains together to make sure we got to ask some good ones for you all. So that was extremely fun.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen since Bill when he joined Arizona, he talked about how he put together a 92-page rebuild plan. And it's just cool to see him sticking to that plan. Now, it doesn't mean he's so rigid to it, but you see some other GMs, it's just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, where you can see where kind of Bill is in that process, right? He talked about how we're 60% of a Stanley Cup team now, and as you kind of move down the road here, we're going to get even closer. And you can see it coming, right? In a couple of years, we're going to see some of these young players make the team. The team's going to get even better, and it's going to continue to move down the road.
Yep. No, absolutely.
And speaking of, transitioning the roster and getting closer and closer to a playoff contending team. Not that this move signifies that there's a needle moving one way or the other, but it is. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the departure of our good friend Connor Ingram, which we kind of had a feeling was coming when he was placed on waivers, but it was officially announced today that he was traded to the Edmonton Oilers, I believe, with $800,000 per year of his salary retained. for future considerations, which we have a feeling that the future considerations as part of that deal might be the exclusive negotiating rights to Connor McDavid in the near future. But we're not entirely sure about that. But ultimately, all jokes aside, we wish Ingram nothing but the best. And it's unfortunate to see the way that he had to depart, but it's good to see that he's back and healthy enough to continue his playing career. And that's what we wanted all along. And if you're going to choose anywhere to go, why not Edmonton, a team on the precipice of winning a Stanley Cup? So best of luck to our good pal, Connor Ingram, in his new adventures in Edmonton.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for him, right? A Saskatoon guy gets to go close to home. And in the meantime, he'll go down to Bakersfield. I mean, one of the better markets if you have to play in the AHL, shorter travels too. And he's done this before, right? Where he built himself up in the AHL, and it got to a point where Nashville lost him on waivers because he was just too good for the minors. Arizona scooped him up and was the beneficiary of that. And potentially he'll have a chance to turn around in Edmonton too.
Right.
Yep. And then on top of that roster conversation here, we are up to the last preseason game, or are there two more?
Two more.
Yeah.
We got
to watch
LA
a little
on
bit
the
of last
second
night.
Yep.
You can see things are coming together. Still, it'd be really nice to get a win. I think we said last week 2 of the 3, right? 2 of the 3. But I mean,
I do think we are dead last preseason standings, but I don't love it. Preseason standings.
I love it.
Who won
goal differential?
Who won last year's preseason? I don't think it was
somebody not good.
Florida or anyone like that.
Probably Chicago or something.
It was San Jose,
right?
Yeah.
You're just looking for the right things.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Boo getting 2 points last night. Players like Ben McCartney kind of putting his name back on the map. I don't really care what the scores of these games are. You're just looking for the right things.
Yeah, and I think Boot has probably been the biggest grower, especially for somebody who's already 6'8" or whatever, across both of the camps, because it seemed like a lot of the reports from friends of the show like Brogan Houston and Cole Bagley, where he looked a little rough at the beginning of the rookie camp. This is obviously a big adjustment for him going from the European ice to North American ice, especially with his size. But man, last night from the bits of the game I got to watch, you can see that confidence is growing, and you can see that it's all starting to click for him.
Yep. That's all you can ask for a player that, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but for a player that's getting used to a smaller rink and his first year of official development in North America. So again, it remains to be seen. They have the Mammoth, especially the man in charge that we just spoke to, and his staff have a much better sense of where these players are at than us with just the pure eye test evaluation. So I'm still holding my breath to see what that final roster looks like, but it should be an exciting couple days. And just, man, we are in October already. I mean, we've got NHL regular season hockey just right around the corner. What's our first game? The 9th?
Yep. 8 days.
Yep.
8 days away. So, man, this is an exciting time, and arguably the most exciting year that this franchise collectively has had in a very, very long time. So,
I mean, you heard Bill, we're either going to miss or make the playoffs by 1 point. So no stress there.
Yeah, no kidding. Every game is going to matter. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be several of those games we'll be saying, man, look back at that. If only they won that in overtime instead of lost in overtime. Right. But obviously you don't want to put too much pressure game to game, but it is going to be a battle. I've been doing some season previews on the betting aspect of everything and been going through team to team. The Atlantic and the Central seem very, very tough. And now the Atlantic, Florida losing Barkov for most, if not all, the regular season almost changes that dynamic there quite a bit too. And I think maybe the Central is now crowned king of the most competitive and tough division. And I mean, honestly, even Nashville, who did not live up to expectations last season, still a decent team on paper. I mean, this isn't like a full-on Chicago or Bruins type team where there's not much depth and you don't know which way they're going. I mean, this is a team with lots of vets and Norris Trophy winner Roman Josi on it. So
yeah, still got number one goalie, still got number one D. It's like Boston, right?
Yeah.
Boston's going to suck, but they still got Pasternak, who's going to win a lot of games just by himself.
Yep. And I do think, credit to your point, Corey, I'm sorry, Brad, but both of you guys, I don't think it's the best idea to put a lot of pressure on this team game to game, but I do feel that this is Andre Tourigny's most important year. As far as in-game adjustments, and we can't just give up a loser point to Chicago or San Jose, where it's a game that we absolutely should win, but then all of a sudden there's a late comeback by that team, and then we lose in overtime. Flashbacks to the San Jose game where we just blew that massive lead in the late stages of the game. And Bear's going to try to, I think, just based off the roster that he's got now, he's got to feel like he's looking at the best team he's coached in a while. And he's going to have a really, really important job to make sure that this team is prepared mentally before the game, but also he's got to make sure that he's making the right in-game adjustments, making sure that we are icing the right roster in the final minutes of the game and lineup matches. So I'm not saying there's going to be extra heat applied to him, but this is definitely, in my opinion, his most important year as a coach. So I'm excited to see how he adjusts to these changes as well.
Probably a contract year for him too. Now he is signed this season and next, but I mean, probably next off season is when they're talking extension, right? So
sure, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yep, I would have to agree. And one thing the team kind of struggled with last season was every time they won, after kind of that beginning of the season win streak, it seemed like they lost one. So they need more winning streaks, less 50-50 hockey. Because we've all kind of joked about it. It felt like all through January till like March, when the team kind of really started pulling off multiple wins in a row, felt like every week was the same. Like, well, we won, lost one, and lost in overtime and won. And we have not moved up in the standings, and we have not moved down. So
that was fun last October, winning 3 in a row, because I remember it's been quite a while since not only did we lose the first game of the year, but had a winning streak to start. I mean, we went multiple games in Arizona to start the year without even scoring a goal. So progress.
Yeah. But man, I just can't wait. I can't wait to see how these lines look. I can't wait to see who kind of makes the cut. Again, there's some nice opportunity with potentially Kerfoot missing some time. Sounds like maybe McBain and Cooley may be back sooner rather than later, but even at the same time, it sounds like Mr. BA here is getting a little antsy about getting them all back into the lineup and seeing what we got. So there's a chance here we're going to see some kids start the season, whether the team likes it or not, and see how they fit and gel, and then maybe lock in that roster after the first couple games.
Yep. Should be exciting times, fellas. This is it. And I like Brad's, I want to say analogy. I'm blanking on the word, but every year that we do amazing in the preseason, we just have a rough year later on. So maybe this is we're changing the tides, and we're just sandbagging everybody in the preseason so that we can save everybody, save all of our juices, competitive juices for the upcoming season. So I'm excited to see first year of the Mammoth, baby.
Yeah. Inaugural Mammoth season too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning into the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. Make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube. That helps our channel grow and gets us awesome guests like Mr. Bill Armstrong, who we had on today. If you want to help support the show and podcast, you can grab a shirt like our Cult of GMBA shirt from shop.cleanhitshockey.com. And of course, we do have a growing and very, very active Discord community at discord.cleanhitshockey.com. Come join the fun game day threads, even during preseason, are just wild. So if you want to connect with more Utah Mammoth fans, that is the best spot to go. And of course, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Guys, anything else?
That's it.
Tusks up.
Tusks up, baby.
Up. All right, we'll catch you next time.
All right, take care.
I'm running the game now.